Your mind is your most powerful weapon. Yet most people never learn how to use it properly. They react instead of thinking. They follow instead of questioning. They believe instead of understanding. Critical thinking is the skill that separates leaders from followers. It sharpens your decisions. It strengthens your confidence. It transforms how you see the world and yourself. This book will train your mind to think clearly, act wisely, and grow stronger every day. Stay with me till the end and subscribe, because your transformation begins now. Chapter 1: Awakening the Power of Thought. Your life moves in the direction of your thoughts, not your wishes, not your dreams, not your intentions. Your thoughts. Every decision you make, every action you take, every habit you build, and every future you create begins inside your mind. Long before success appears in your hands, it is shaped in your thinking. Long before failure becomes visible, it is planted quietly in your perception. Most people live their entire lives without ever realizing this. They live on autopilot. They repeat patterns. They copy beliefs. They absorb opinions. They follow crowds. They react to life instead of directing it. But the moment you awaken the power of thought, everything changes. You stop drifting. You start choosing. You stop guessing. You start understanding. You stop reacting. You start thinking. Critical thinking is not about being smart. It is about being aware. It is the ability to slow down your mind when the world rushes. It is the strength to question what others accept blindly. It is the discipline to analyze instead of assume. It is the courage to think independently. When you awaken this power, your mind becomes your greatest ally instead of your biggest enemy. Most people suffer not because life is hard, but because their thinking is weak. They believe everything they hear. They trust every emotion they feel. They accept every fear as truth. They confuse noise for knowledge. Their mind becomes a battlefield where doubt, anxiety, pressure, and confusion fight for control. But when you master your thinking, you take back control. You become the leader of your own mind. You become the architect of your future. Your mind is not your master. It is your tool. And like any powerful tool, it must be trained. The first step in awakening the power of thought is awareness. Awareness of how you think. Awareness of why you think. Awareness of what controls your thinking. Most people never stop to observe their own mind. They live inside it, but they never examine it. They follow thoughts without questioning them. They obey emotions without understanding them. They mistake thoughts for facts. But a thought is only a suggestion, a story, a perspective, not truth. Your mind creates narratives every second. Some are helpful, some are destructive, some are based on reality, some are based on fear. Critical thinking allows you to separate signal from noise. It teaches you to recognize mental patterns, and it gives you the ability to pause before believing. That pause is power. In that pause, you gain clarity. In that pause, you gain control. In that pause, you gain freedom. Freedom from impulsive decisions. Freedom from emotional reactions. Freedom from manipulation. When you awaken your thinking, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You start becoming a creator of outcomes. Every powerful person in history shared one common trait. They thought differently. They questioned systems. They challenged norms. They analyzed problems. They saw beyond appearances. They did not accept life as it was handed to them. They reshaped it through thought. Your mind holds the same power, but power unused becomes weakness. Potential ignored becomes limitation. The mind that is not trained becomes chaotic. The mind that is not disciplined becomes reactive. The mind that is not challenged becomes lazy. And a lazy mind creates a small life. Awakening your thinking means waking up from mental sleep. It means realizing that most of what you believe was given to you by others, parents, teachers, society, culture, media. Some of those beliefs serve you. Some of them limit you. Critical thinking allows you to examine them, not to reject everything, but to choose wisely. You become selective with ideas. You become careful with assumptions. You become intentional with beliefs. This is how intelligence turns into wisdom. Thinking deeply is uncomfortable at first. It challenges your identity. It questions your certainty. It forces you to confront your blind spots. But discomfort is the doorway to growth. A mind that never struggles, never expands. A mind that never questions, never evolves. A mind that never doubts, never improves. Critical thinking is the gym for your brain. It strengthens mental muscles. It sharpens perception. It builds resilience. You stop being mentally fragile. You stop being easily influenced. You stop being controlled by trends and opinions. You become grounded. You become centered. You become strong. The awakened thinker does not rush to conclusions. They observe. They analyze. They reflect. They seek understanding before judgment. They seek truth before comfort. They seek clarity before action. This creates confidence. Confidence rooted in knowledge. Confidence rooted in awareness. Confidence rooted in self-trust. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop chasing validation. You stop depending on approval, because your mind becomes your foundation. When your thinking becomes strong, your emotions become stable. When your thinking becomes clear, your decisions become powerful. When your thinking becomes disciplined, your life becomes intentional. The awakened mind does not drift. It navigates. It does not wander. It directs. It does not react. It responds. This is the difference between surviving life and mastering it. Most people allow circumstances to shape their mindset. Critical thinkers shape their mindset regardless of circumstances. They understand that problems are not threats. They are information. They see obstacles as feedback. They see failure as data. They see mistakes as lessons. They learn faster because they think deeper. They grow faster because they reflect longer. They move smarter because they see clearer. Awakening your thinking also transforms how you see yourself. You stop defining yourself by past failures. You stop limiting yourself by old labels. You stop shrinking under social pressure. You realize that identity is flexible. It can be upgraded. It can be redesigned. It can be rebuilt. You are not fixed. You are evolving. Your mindset is not permanent. It is programmable, and critical thinking is the language of that programming. You begin to ask better internal questions. You begin to challenge your excuses. You begin to confront your fears, not with aggression, with logic. Fear loses power when examined. Doubt weakens when analyzed. Insecurity fades when understood. The mind becomes calm when it feels in control. An awakened thinker does not panic under pressure. They process. They plan. They adapt. They turn chaos into clarity. They turn complexity into strategy. They turn uncertainty into opportunity. This is mental leadership. You lead your mind before it leads you. And when your mind is led well, your life follows. Every breakthrough begins as a thought. Every invention starts as an idea. Every achievement is born from imagination. Your thoughts build your future brick by brick. Weak thoughts build fragile lives. Strong thoughts build powerful legacies. You are not limited by your environment. You are limited by your perception of it. You are not blocked by circumstances. You are blocked by your interpretation of them. Change your thinking and your reality changes. This is not motivation. This is psychology. This is how the brain works. Your brain adapts to what you focus on. It strengthens what you repeat. It believes what you reinforce. Train your thinking and your brain rewires. You become sharper. You become faster. You become more aware. You start seeing patterns others miss. You start noticing details others ignore. You start understanding people better. Your emotional intelligence rises. Your decision-making improves. Your confidence grows naturally, because confidence is the result of clarity, and clarity is born from thinking. Awakening the power of thought means stepping into mental adulthood. You stop blaming. You stop complaining. You stop waiting. You start owning. You start building. You start creating. You take responsibility for your mind. and responsibility gives you control. The world does not change for passive thinkers. It rewards proactive ones. It does not follow followers. It follows leaders. And leadership always begins in the mind. You are now standing at the doorway of a new way of living, a way of awareness, a way of intention, a way of intelligence. From this moment forward, your thoughts are no longer random. They are tools. Your mind is no longer a battlefield. It is a command center. Your future is no longer a mystery. It is a design. This is the awakening. This is the shift. This is the beginning of mastery. The power of thought is now in your hands, and once awakened, it never sleeps again. Chapter 2. Breaking Mental Illusions and False Beliefs. Your mind builds a world before you ever step into it. It paints pictures of what is possible and what is not. It whispers stories about who you are and who you can become, and most of those stories were written long before you had a chance to choose them. Illusions are not created by magic. They are created by repetition. A thought repeated often enough becomes a belief. A belief repeated long enough becomes identity, and an identity repeated long enough becomes destiny. False beliefs feel real because they live inside your daily thinking. They shape your reactions. They guide your decisions. They define your limits. They whisper doubt when you try to grow. They pull you back when you try to rise. A mental illusion is a story your mind tells that feels true but is not. It feels solid because it has been rehearsed. It feels logical because it has been defended. It feels personal because it has been lived. But truth is not built on repetition. Truth is built on evidence. And critical thinking is the tool that separates one from the other. Most people never question their mental world. They accept it as reality. They live inside it. They defend it. They pass it on. They say things like, "This is just how life is. This is how people are. This is how I am." These statements feel harmless. They feel honest. They feel realistic. But they are often illusions wearing the mask of wisdom. A belief can be loud and still be wrong. A belief can be old and still be false. A belief can be popular and still be limiting. The first step in breaking mental illusions is noticing them. You must become aware of the thoughts that quietly rule your life, the automatic assumptions, the invisible rules, the internal limits. These thoughts often sound reasonable. They feel protective. They pretend to keep you safe. They say things like, "Better not try. You might fail. People will judge. You are not ready. You are not good enough." These thoughts are not facts. They are fear disguised as logic. Your mind learned these patterns from experience, from failure, from rejection, from disappointment, from comparison, and now it uses them to protect you from pain. But protection is not the same as growth. A mind built for safety avoids challenge. A mind built for mastery seeks it. Illusions are comfortable. Truth is demanding. Comfort keeps you where you are. Truth pushes you forward. False beliefs shrink your vision. They reduce your ambition. They limit your courage. They weaken your confidence. They convince you that the ceiling is real, when in reality it only exists in your thinking. Your environment did not create your limits. Your perception did. The story you tell yourself about your life becomes the life you live. If you believe you are weak, you will avoid strength. If you believe you are unlucky, you will ignore opportunity. If you believe you are average, you will never aim higher. Your beliefs create your behavior. Your behavior creates your results. Change your beliefs and your life follows. Breaking illusions requires intellectual honesty. You must be willing to admit that some of your strongest beliefs may be wrong, not because you failed, but because you grew. Growth demands updates. The mind must be upgraded the same way software is upgraded. Old versions run slow. Old versions crash. Old versions limit performance. Your thinking needs regular updates. This means questioning your assumptions, examining your conclusions, testing your logic, reviewing your patterns. You stop saying, "This is who I am," and start saying, "This is who I have been." That shift alone creates freedom. False beliefs often hide behind emotional memory. A painful experience becomes a permanent rule. A single failure becomes a lifelong label. A rejection becomes a fixed identity. But one moment does not define a lifetime. One mistake does not define ability. One loss does not define destiny. Critical thinking separates experience from identity. It extracts lessons instead of building prisons. You are not your past. You are the mind that learned from it. Mental illusions also grow through social influence. People inherit beliefs from family, culture, school, and media. They absorb opinions before developing reasoning. They adopt limits before understanding possibility. And then they defend those limits as if they chose them. But borrowed beliefs deserve investigation. A belief that was never questioned does not deserve obedience. Your mind becomes powerful the moment you stop accepting ideas just because they are common. Common does not mean correct. Popular does not mean wise. Traditional does not mean true. Truth survives questioning. Illusions collapse under it. Breaking false beliefs is not about rebellion. It is about responsibility. You take responsibility for your thinking. You stop letting your mind run on inherited scripts. You start writing your own. This is intellectual independence. Independence creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates momentum. The strongest minds are not those with the most information. They are those with the most accurate perception. They see reality without distortion. They think without fear. They decide without illusion. They build lives based on truth. A clear mind is a powerful mind. Once illusions break, you feel lighter. You feel sharper. You feel more capable. Your world expands. Your limits dissolve. Your future opens. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop listening to doubt. You stop obeying old stories. You become the author of your life. This is the moment transformation begins. Not when you change your habits. Not when you change your environment. When you change your thinking, a free mind creates a free life. And now, your mind is waking up. Chapter 3. Building a mind of clarity and precision. A powerful life is built on a clear mind. Not a fast mind. Not a loud mind. Not a busy mind. A clear mind. Clarity is the foundation of every strong decision. It is the difference between confidence and confusion. It is the space between impulse and intention. It is the quiet force that guides great thinkers forward. Most people think a lot, but very few people think clearly. Their minds are crowded, filled with noise, filled with pressure, filled with opinions that are not their own. They move through life with mental fog. They make decisions while distracted. They react before they understand. They chase goals without direction. A cluttered mind creates a chaotic life. But when your thinking becomes precise, your life becomes intentional. Precision is not speed. Precision is accuracy. It is the ability to focus on what matters, to ignore what doesn't, to see truth without distortion. A precise mind does not jump to conclusions. It follows evidence. It examines patterns. It questions assumptions. It moves slowly when needed. It moves quickly when required. But it always moves with purpose. Precision sharpens your perception. It trains your attention. It strengthens your discipline. It turns confusion into understanding. Clarity begins with mental order. You cannot think clearly in a disorganized mind. Thoughts must be sorted. Beliefs must be examined. Ideas must be filtered. A mind without structure is easily overwhelmed. The modern world floods the brain with information, news, social media, opinions, trends, distractions. Most people consume far more than they process. They absorb more than they understand. They react more than they reflect. This creates mental overload, and overload destroys clarity. A clear mind is selective. It chooses what enters. It filters what stays. It discards what poisons focus. Your attention is your most valuable resource. What you give it to shapes your thinking. What you protect it from shapes your discipline. When your attention is scattered, your thinking becomes shallow. When your attention is focused, your thinking becomes powerful. Precision requires intention. You must decide what deserves your mental energy. You must protect your focus like a treasure. Because focus is the doorway to mastery. A precise thinker does not try to understand everything. They seek to understand what matters. They prioritize depth over breadth, quality over quantity, meaning over noise. This discipline transforms intelligence into wisdom. Clarity also requires emotional awareness. A mind controlled by emotion loses accuracy. Fear distorts logic. Anger clouds judgment. Excitement blurs caution. A clear thinker separates feeling from fact. They acknowledge emotion, but they do not let it dictate reality. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. This creates balance. Balance creates objectivity. Objectivity sharpens perception. A precise mind does not deny emotion. It integrates it wisely. It understands when emotion adds insight and when it creates bias. This awareness strengthens decision-making. Precision is also built through reflection. A thinker who never reflects repeats mistakes. A thinker who reflects evolves. Reflection turns experience into intelligence. It allows you to see patterns in behavior. It reveals hidden motivations. It uncovers blind spots. A reflective mind becomes self-correcting. It learns faster. It adapts quicker. It improves continuously. This creates momentum. Clarity grows when you slow down your thinking. Speed is useful, but haste creates errors. A rushed mind overlooks details. It misses context. It jumps to assumptions. A calm mind sees more. It understands deeper. It judges fairly. Precision requires patience. You must be willing to pause, to observe, to analyze, to process. This pause gives birth to insight. Insight is not accidental. It is the reward of focused thought. A clear thinker builds mental habits that support accuracy. They read carefully. They listen attentively. They question intelligently. They are not impressed by complexity. They seek simplicity. Simplicity reveals truth. Complexity often hides it. A precise mind strips away unnecessary layers. It finds the core. It identifies the root. It targets the cause. This is how problems are solved. Clarity is also strengthened by humility. Arrogance blinds. Humility sharpens. When you accept that you do not know everything, you become open to learning. Learning expands perspective. Perspective refines judgment. A closed mind stagnates. An open mind grows. Precision thinking requires flexibility, not weakness, not uncertainty. Flexibility is the ability to update beliefs when new evidence appears. Rigid minds cling to old ideas. Precise minds evolve. Evolution is intelligence in motion. Clarity also comes from purpose. When your life lacks direction, your thinking lacks focus. Purpose organizes your priorities. It filters your choices. It guides your attention. When you know what you want, your mind aligns around it. Alignment creates power. A scattered life produces scattered thinking. A purposeful life produces precise thinking. You begin to evaluate everything through the lens of your values. Does this move me forward? Does this distract me? Does this matter? Does this waste my time? This awareness protects your mental energy. Precision also requires mental discipline. You must train your mind to resist distraction, to delay gratification, to focus deeply. Discipline is not restriction. It is direction. It gives your thinking strength. A disciplined mind is calm under pressure. It does not panic. It processes. It does not rush. It evaluates. It does not freeze. It adapts. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates decisiveness. You stop hesitating. You stop doubting. You stop second-guessing. Because your thinking is solid. A clear thinker trusts their reasoning. They are not perfect, but they are consistent. Consistency creates reliability. People trust those who think clearly. They follow those who decide wisely. Leadership begins in the mind. Precision turns knowledge into action. It bridges the gap between learning and execution. A mind without precision stays theoretical. A precise mind moves, it builds, it creates, it grows. This is the power of clarity. When your thinking becomes sharp, your life becomes strategic. You stop drifting. You start directing. You stop wandering. You start building. You become intentional. You become focused. You become unstoppable. Your mind becomes your advantage. This is how thinkers become leaders. This is how clarity becomes power. This is how precision becomes mastery. And now, your mind is sharpening. Chapter 4. Developing independent and strategic thinking. A strong mind does not follow the crowd. It leads itself. Independent thinking is the foundation of every powerful individual. It is the ability to stand firm in your reasoning, even when the world pushes in another direction. Most people borrow their thinking. They inherit opinions. They repeat beliefs. They follow trends. They confuse popularity with truth. They confuse noise with wisdom. A strategic thinker moves differently. They observe before adopting. They analyze before believing. They question before committing. They do not surrender their mind to the majority. Independent thinking begins with courage. The courage to stand alone. The courage to challenge ideas. The courage to disagree respectfully. It takes strength to think for yourself in a world that rewards conformity. But conformity builds average lives. Independent thinking builds extraordinary ones. A strategic mind is not reactive. It is deliberate. It does not move based on emotion alone. It evaluates. It plans. It anticipates. It sees 3 steps ahead, while others focus only on the moment. This foresight separates leaders from followers. Strategic thinking turns chaos into order. It finds patterns in confusion. It creates direction where others see uncertainty. A strategist does not wait for opportunity. They prepare for it. They position themselves. They build leverage. They invest in growth. Their mind becomes a battlefield map. Every move is intentional. Every decision is aligned with long-term vision. Most people live short-term lives. They chase comfort. They avoid risk. They seek approval. Strategic thinkers build long-term futures. They delay gratification. They embrace challenge. They invest in mastery. They understand that growth is not accidental. It is designed. Independent thinkers do not fear being different. They understand that progress always begins with difference. Every breakthrough in history was once considered impossible. Every innovation was once rejected. Every visionary was once doubted. But they stayed loyal to their thinking. They trusted their perception. They believed in their reasoning. They followed their insight. And the world eventually followed them. Strategic thinking also requires perspective. You must rise above the moment to see the full picture. Emotional thinking is narrow. Strategic thinking is wide. It considers consequences. It weighs outcomes. It measures impact. It understands that every action creates a reaction. A strategic mind chooses moves that create advantage, not regret. It sees time as a resource. It sees energy as an investment. It sees effort as capital, and it spends wisely. Independent thinkers do not waste attention on drama. They do not drown in distraction. They do not chase validation. They build quietly. They move intentionally. They grow steadily. They know that real power is built in silence. Strategic thinkers think in systems. They understand how parts connect, how actions ripple, how habits compound. They see life as a structure, and they design it carefully. They do not leave success to chance. They engineer it. Independent thinking also demands discipline. You must guard your mind, protect your focus, filter your inputs. What you consume shapes how you think. A strategic mind feeds on knowledge, not gossip, not negativity, not distraction. It feeds on insight, on learning, on understanding. And this mental nutrition builds strength. Independent thinkers also master self-trust. They do not wait for permission. They do not seek constant reassurance. They believe in their capacity to learn, to adapt, to grow. They trust their ability to solve problems. This trust creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates results. Strategic thinkers understand leverage. They focus on high-impact actions. They avoid low-value effort. They know where to invest time, where to focus energy, where to build skill. This efficiency multiplies success. They do not work harder, they work smarter. They move where results live. Independent thinking also strengthens resilience. When you think for yourself, you do not collapse under pressure. You analyze, you adapt, you respond. You do not break. A strategic mind turns obstacles into data. It turns failure into feedback. It turns setbacks into strategy. Every challenge becomes a lesson. This mindset creates momentum. Independent thinkers are not stubborn. They are open, but they are selective. They consider ideas carefully. They adopt what works. They discard what doesn't. They evolve constantly. Evolution is intelligence in motion. A strategic life is not built on luck. It is built on preparation. When opportunity appears, the strategist is ready. They have built the skills. They have trained the mind. They have prepared the foundation. And when the moment arrives, they move with precision. This is the power of independent and strategic thinking. It transforms your mind from a passenger into a driver. It turns your life from a reaction into a design. It gives you direction. It gives you leverage. It gives you control. And once you master it, you stop waiting for the future. You start building it. Your mind becomes your strategy. Your strategy becomes your power. And your power becomes your legacy. Chapter 5. Decision-making with logic and insight. Every life is shaped by decisions. Not by luck, not by talent, not by circumstance, by decisions. Small decisions shape daily habits. Big decisions shape direction. Unclear decisions create confusion. Clear decisions create momentum. Most people do not fail because they choose wrongly. They fail because they choose emotionally, impulsively, without clarity. They decide while stressed. They decide while afraid. They decide while seeking approval. And those decisions slowly shape a life they did not intend to live. A powerful thinker approaches decisions differently. They use logic to stabilize emotion. They use insight to guide logic. This balance is mastery. Logic alone can be cold, insight alone can be impulsive. But when combined, they create wisdom. Decision-making with logic and insight is the art of thinking clearly while seeing deeply. Logic organizes thought. Insight understands context. Logic asks what makes sense. Insight asks what truly matters. Together, they prevent regret. Most poor decisions are not made from ignorance. They are made from pressure. Pressure to act fast. Pressure to please others. Pressure to escape discomfort. A clear thinker resists pressure. They slow the moment down. They understand that urgency clouds judgment. A calm decision is often a correct one. Logical decision-making begins with clarity of outcome. You must know what you want to achieve. Not vaguely, precisely. A confused goal creates confused decisions. When you are clear about your direction, choices become easier. You begin evaluating options based on alignment, not emotion. Does this move me forward? Does this protect my values? Does this strengthen my future? Logic filters possibilities, but insight adds depth. Insight considers timing. It considers people. It considers long-term impact. A logical decision may look correct on paper. An insightful decision feels correct in reality. Insight is born from awareness, from experience, from reflection. It is the quiet understanding that goes beyond data. Decision-making mastery requires patience. Rushed choices are often emotional choices. A strategic thinker creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, logic organizes the facts, and insight reads the situation. This pause changes everything. You stop reacting. You start responding. Logic also demands evidence. Strong decisions are supported by facts, not assumptions. Many people decide based on stories they tell themselves. Stories rooted in fear. Stories rooted in past failure. Stories rooted in insecurity. Logic challenges these stories. It asks for proof. Insight then interprets that proof wisely. A disciplined thinker separates possibility from probability. They understand that just because something can happen does not mean it will. They do not exaggerate risk. They do not minimize consequence. They weigh reality carefully. Decision-making also requires emotional control. Emotion is powerful, but unchecked emotion distorts logic. Fear magnifies danger. Excitement minimizes risk. Anger demands action. A skilled thinker acknowledges emotion without letting it drive the decision. They feel fully, but decide calmly. This creates stability. Stable decisions build stable lives. Insight also helps you read invisible factors, human behavior, hidden motives, unspoken dynamics. Not everything important is written down. Not every variable is obvious. Insight fills these gaps. It notices patterns. It senses timing. It understands context. This awareness strengthens decisions beyond logic alone. Decision-making mastery also requires responsibility. Every choice has consequences. A weak thinker blames circumstances. A strong thinker owns outcomes. Ownership sharpens judgment. When you know you are responsible, you decide more carefully. You stop gambling with your future. Logical thinkers think in consequences. They look beyond immediate comfort. They ask how this decision will shape tomorrow, not just today. This long-term vision separates growth from stagnation. Insight also teaches restraint. Not every opportunity is worth taking. Not every option deserves action. Saying no is a form of intelligence. Strategic thinkers know when to wait, when to observe, when to gather more information. Waiting is not weakness, it is control. A disciplined mind does not panic in uncertainty. It evaluates, it adapts. It chooses the best moment, not the fastest one. Decision-making also improves through reflection. A thinker reviews past choices honestly, not with regret, with curiosity. What worked, what failed, why it happened. This reflection builds insight. Insight sharpens future decisions. Experience becomes intelligent only when examined. Logical decision-makers also recognize cognitive traps, confirmation bias, overconfidence, emotional attachment. They question their own reasoning. Self-questioning prevents blind spots. A wise thinker is not attached to being right. They are attached to making the right choice. This humility strengthens logic. Decision-making mastery also builds confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet certainty. You trust your ability to think clearly. You trust your ability to adapt. This trust reduces anxiety. Fear fades when you believe in your reasoning. Insight gives peace. Logic gives clarity. Together, they create decisiveness. Decisive people move forward. Indecisive people stay stuck. Life rewards movement guided by intelligence. Every decision becomes a brick. Brick by brick, you build your future. Poor decisions weaken the structure. Strong decisions strengthen it. Decision-making is not about perfection. It is about progress. You will not always choose perfectly, but with logic and insight, you will choose wisely more often. And wisdom compounds. Better choices create better habits. Better habits create better results. Better results create confidence. Confidence reinforces clarity. This upward cycle transforms your life. You stop feeling lost. You stop feeling unsure. You stop feeling reactive. You feel grounded, focused, intentional. Your mind becomes your guide. Decision-making mastery is not a talent. It is a discipline you are now building. And as your thinking sharpens, your future becomes clearer. One decision at a time, you are shaping a life built on logic, guided by insight, and driven by purpose. This is how clarity becomes power. This is how thinking becomes action. This is how growth becomes inevitable. Chapter 6. Overcoming cognitive bias and mental traps. Your mind is powerful, but it is not perfect. It is fast. It is creative. It is emotional. It is instinctive. And because of this, it often takes shortcuts. These shortcuts feel efficient. They save energy. They reduce effort. But they also create errors. These errors are called cognitive biases, invisible habits of thinking that distort reality without you realizing it. They shape how you judge people, how you evaluate situations, how you interpret events, how you make decisions, and if you are not aware of them, they quietly control your life. A biased mind sees what it expects to see. It hears what it wants to hear. It believes what feels comfortable. It protects the ego. It defends old beliefs. It resists new information. Not because it is evil, but because it is wired for survival, not for truth. Your brain evolved to keep you safe, not to make you wise. It scans for danger. It looks for patterns. It jumps to conclusions. This helped humans survive in the wild. But in modern life, it creates distortion. You react to situations that are not dangerous. You fear outcomes that are unlikely. You trust assumptions that are untested. This is how mental traps are formed. A mental trap is a habitual way of thinking that limits your perception and weakens your judgment. Once trapped, your mind loops the same patterns. You repeat the same mistakes. You attract the same problems. You sabotage the same opportunities. Not because life is unfair, but because your thinking is biased. One of the most powerful traps is confirmation. Your mind looks for information that supports what it already believes. It ignores information that challenges it. This makes your beliefs feel stronger, even when they are wrong. Your brain becomes a lawyer, defending old ideas, instead of a judge, searching for truth. Another trap is emotional reasoning. When you feel afraid, you believe something must be dangerous. When you feel insecure, you believe something must be wrong with you. But emotion is not evidence. Emotion is a signal, not a conclusion. A disciplined thinker listens to emotion without obeying it. Fear does not mean stop. It means evaluate. Doubt does not mean quit. It means examine. A mind ruled by emotion is easy to manipulate. A mind guided by logic is hard to deceive. Another trap is overgeneralization. One failure becomes a pattern. One rejection becomes an identity. One mistake becomes a lifetime rule. Your mind says, "This always happens. I always fail." People never change. But life is not fixed. It is fluid. Every moment is new. Every outcome is different. A strong thinker separates a moment from a destiny. They learn from failure without becoming it. Another trap is comparison. You measure your life against someone else's highlight. You compare your struggle to their success. This creates illusion. You see the result, not the process. The outcome, not the sacrifice. Comparison distorts self-worth. It makes you forget your path, your pace, your purpose. A clear thinker competes only with their past self. They build progress, not pressure. Another trap is authority bias. You believe something because someone important said it, not because it is true. Titles do not create truth. Status does not create wisdom. Truth stands on evidence, not reputation. A critical thinker respects experience, but verifies information. They do not surrender their mind to anyone. Another trap is mental laziness. The brain prefers easy answers, simple explanations, quick conclusions. But reality is complex. Deep thinking requires effort. Reflection requires patience. Understanding requires humility. A lazy mind accepts surface-level stories. A strong mind digs deeper. Mental traps also grow from fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being judged. Fear of being rejected. Fear makes you cling to beliefs, even when they are broken. But growth demands courage. Courage to say, I was wrong. Courage to change. Courage to evolve. A mind that cannot change, cannot grow. Overcoming bias begins with awareness. You must notice your patterns, your triggers, your emotional reactions. You must observe your thinking, like a scientist observing data. No judgment, no shame, only curiosity. Why do I think this? Where did this belief come from? What evidence supports it? What evidence challenges it? This discipline creates mental freedom, freedom from manipulation, freedom from self-sabotage, freedom from illusion. A clear thinker does not seek comfort. They seek truth. They are not afraid of complexity. They are not threatened by new ideas. They welcome growth. Mental mastery is not about knowing everything. It is about seeing clearly. It is about recognizing when your mind is lying to you. It is about choosing logic over fear, truth over comfort, growth over safety. Once you break mental traps, your world expands. You see more options. You feel more capable. You think more clearly. Your decisions improve. Your confidence rises. Your future opens. You stop being controlled by invisible forces inside your head. You become the driver of your thinking. And when you control your thinking, you control your life. This is not intelligence. This is mastery. And now your mind is learning how to break free. Chapter 7. Strengthening Focus and Mental Discipline. A powerful mind is a focused mind. A focused mind is a disciplined mind. Without focus, intelligence becomes scattered. Without discipline, potential becomes wasted. Most people do not lack ability. They lack control over their attention. Their mind jumps from thought to thought, from desire to desire, from distraction to distraction. They start many things. They finish few. They plan big. They execute small. They want growth. But they avoid effort. This is not a problem of talent. It is a problem of discipline. Mental discipline is the ability to stay present, to stay engaged, to stay committed. It is the strength to continue when motivation fades, when excitement disappears, when comfort calls. Discipline is the bridge between intention and result. A disciplined thinker does not wait to feel ready. They act because they decided. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions through consistency. They understand that mastery is built through repetition, not inspiration. Focus is not natural. It is trained. The brain is wired for novelty. It seeks stimulation. It craves variety. This makes distraction feel attractive. It makes comfort feel rewarding. But growth requires effort, and effort requires discipline. A focused mind resists distraction. A disciplined mind resists temptation. Together, they create momentum. Mental discipline begins with awareness. You must notice how easily your attention escapes, how quickly your focus breaks, how often your mind wanders. Most people live in a constant state of mental noise. Their mind is always running, always reacting, always jumping. This creates exhaustion. A disciplined mind is calm. It moves with intention. It does not chase every thought. It chooses which ones deserve attention. This choice is power. Focus sharpens perception. It deepens understanding. It strengthens memory. When your mind is focused, you learn faster. You think deeper. You execute better. Discipline builds reliability. You become someone who finishes what they start, someone who follows through, someone who delivers results. This builds confidence. Confidence rooted in self-trust. You trust yourself because you keep your promises. You believe in your ability because you prove it daily. A disciplined mind creates a disciplined life. Your habits shape your character. Your character shapes your future. Focus also strengthens emotional control. A distracted mind is impulsive. A focused mind is deliberate. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding intentionally. This creates emotional stability. Stability strengthens decision-making. Decision-making strengthens leadership. Discipline is not restriction. It is direction. It directs your energy toward growth. It directs your effort toward mastery. It turns chaos into structure. A disciplined thinker builds systems. They design routines. They protect their focus. They remove distractions. They reduce noise. They create environments that support deep work. Environment shapes behavior. A strong environment makes discipline easier. A weak environment makes discipline harder. Focus grows when you eliminate what steals it. Mental clarity grows when you remove what pollutes it. Discipline is also built through discomfort. Growth lives outside comfort. When something feels difficult, that is where strength is built. A disciplined mind leans into effort. It does not run from challenge. It understands that resistance is the signal of growth. Mental discipline also requires patience. You must be willing to progress slowly. Fast success is rare. Sustainable success is built. A disciplined thinker plays the long game. They invest in skill. They invest in knowledge. They invest in mastery. They do not chase shortcuts. Shortcuts weaken foundations. Strong foundations create freedom. Focus also strengthens creativity. A wandering mind creates shallow ideas. A focused mind creates depth. Depth is where innovation lives. When you focus deeply, you see connections others miss. You solve problems others avoid. You build insight. Insight builds advantage. Discipline also builds respect. People respect consistency. They trust reliability. A disciplined person becomes dependable. Dependability builds influence. Influence creates leadership. Mental discipline is not about perfection. It is about consistency. You will fail some days. You will lose focus. You will get distracted. But discipline means returning. Returning to effort. Returning to commitment. Returning to growth. Progress is not built in a day. It is built daily. Small actions compound. A disciplined mind understands compounding. 1 hour of focus today becomes a skill tomorrow. One habit today becomes identity tomorrow. Identity shapes destiny. Your mind becomes what you train it to be. If you train distraction, you build weakness. If you train focus, you build strength. If you train discipline, you build mastery. And mastery changes everything. Your confidence rises. Your clarity sharpens. Your future strengthens. You stop feeling lost. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You stop feeling scattered. You feel grounded. You feel capable. You feel powerful. Because your mind is finally under your command. This is the discipline of thinkers, the focus of leaders, the strength of builders. And now your mind is learning how to stay steady in a world that never stops pulling. Chapter 8. Mastering Emotional Control and Rational Thinking. Your emotions are powerful. They shape your reactions. They color your perception. They influence your choices. But emotions were never meant to lead your life. They were meant to inform it. A mind ruled by emotion is unpredictable. A mind guided by reason is stable. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings. They decide when they feel confident. They quit when they feel afraid. They speak when they feel angry. They retreat when they feel insecure. This creates a life of emotional chaos. But mastery begins when you take control. Emotional control does not mean emotional suppression. It means emotional intelligence. You feel deeply, but you think clearly. You experience emotion, but you do not become it. This separation is power. A rational thinker understanding that emotions are temporary. They rise, they peak, they fall, but decisions last. A decision made in anger can destroy years of progress. A decision made in fear can erase opportunity. A decision made in excitement can create regret. Mastery means choosing clarity over impulse. Emotional control begins with awareness. You must recognize what you feel before it controls you. Most people do not pause to name their emotions. They react automatically, but awareness creates distance. Distance creates choice. When you can say, I feel anxious, I feel angry, I feel uncertain, You create space between yourself and the emotion. In that space, rational thinking returns. Rational thinking is calm. It evaluates. It observes. It considers consequence. It does not rush. It does not panic. It does not exaggerate. It sees reality as it is. Emotion often distorts reality. Fear magnifies danger. Anger magnifies threat. Insecurity magnifies rejection. Rational thinking corrects these distortions. It brings balance. It reminds you that feelings are not facts. They are signals, signals that something matters, signals that something needs attention, but they do not decide. You decide. A disciplined thinker listens to emotion without obeying it. They respect their feeling without letting them control behavior. This creates emotional maturity. Emotional maturity creates stability. Stability creates confidence. Confidence rooted in control. Rational thinking also requires patience. Strong emotions push for immediate action. They say, speak now, act now, decide now. But urgency is the enemy of wisdom. A calm mind moves slowly. When the moment is heavy, it waits for clarity. It gathers information. It evaluates perspective. Then it moves with precision. This is the discipline of mastery. Emotional control also protects relationships. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Reactions driven by insecurity create distance. Decisions made in fear destroy trust. A rational thinker chooses timing carefully. They speak when calm. They decide when steady. They act when centered. This builds respect. People trust those who are emotionally stable. They follow those who think clearly. Rational thinking also strengthens resilience. When you control emotion, you control response. Setbacks become lessons. Failure becomes feedback. Criticism becomes information. You stop taking everything personally. You see situations objectively. This objectivity builds strength. Emotional control also improves focus. A turbulent mind cannot concentrate. A calm mind creates clarity. Clarity sharpens execution. Execution builds results. Results build confidence. This is the upward cycle of mastery. Rational thinking also teaches detachment, not coldness, perspective. You learn to step back and see the bigger picture. You stop overreacting to small things. You stop magnifying minor problems. You conserve emotional energy for what truly matters. Energy saved becomes power. A rational thinker is not emotionless. They are centered. They experience joy fully. They feel sadness honestly. They process anger wisely, but they remain in control. Control is not domination. It is direction. You direct your emotions instead of letting them direct you. This creates inner peace. Peace creates strength. Strength creates leadership. Mastering emotional control also means mastering self-talk. The neatness, the stories you tell yourself, shape how you feel. Negative self-talk fuels insecurity. Catastrophic thinking fuels anxiety. Harsh judgment fuels anger. A rational thinker rewrites these stories. They replace exaggeration with evidence. They replace fear with perspective. They replace doubt with clarity. This mental discipline transforms emotion. You become your own stabilizer. You become your own anchor. This inner stability makes you powerful. Life becomes less overwhelming. Challenges feel manageable. Pressure becomes fuel. You stop being reactive. You become intentional. You stop feeling controlled. You feel in command. Rational thinking also sharpens communication. You speak with clarity. You respond with calm. Your presence becomes steady. People feel safe around you. Safety builds trust. Trust builds influence. Influence builds leadership. Mastery of emotion and reason transforms your identity. You no longer live in emotional extremes. You live in mental balance. Balance creates harmony. Harmony creates momentum. Momentum builds growth. This is the mark of a strong thinker, a thinker who is not ruled by mood, not driven by impulse, not controlled by pressure. but guided by clarity. This is emotional intelligence. This is rational mastery. And now, your mind is learning how to stay calm when life becomes loud. Chapter 9. Thinking long-term and designing your future. Your future is not created by chance. It is created by design. Every outcome you experience is the result of decisions made long before the moment arrives. Every success is built quietly. Every failure is planted silently. Life always pays later. Most people think in moments. They focus on today. They react to now. They chase comfort. But masters think in years. They build with patience. They move with vision. They design with intention. Short-term thinking creates temporary wins. Long-term thinking creates lasting success. A powerful mind does not ask what feels good now. It asks what builds strength later. Long-term thinking is the discipline of seeing beyond emotion, beyond pressure, beyond temptation. It is the ability to delay gratification for a greater future. Most people trade their future for the comfort of today. They avoid effort. They postpone discipline. They chase pleasure. And then they wonder why their life feels stuck. A long-term thinker builds a different life. They invest in skills. They build habits. They strengthen character. They understand that small actions compound into massive results. One decision repeated daily becomes destiny. Your future is not shaped by one big choice. It is shaped by many small ones. The food you eat, the people you keep, the habits you build, the thoughts you repeat. These patterns write your story. Designing your future requires awareness. You must see where you are going before you arrive. Most people drift. They let life push them. They let circumstances decide. But a thinker navigates. They choose direction. They build structure. They refuse to live randomly. Long-term thinkers see life as a project that requires planning, a project that demands execution, a project that deserves excellence. They take responsibility for their future. Responsibility is power. When you accept responsibility, you gain control. When you gain control, you create momentum. Momentum creates transformation. Long-term thinking also requires sacrifice. You must be willing to give up now for later. Comfort for growth. Ease for strength. Distraction for mastery. This trade is the price of success. The future rewards those who prepare for it. Preparation is not glamorous. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It is demanding. But it builds greatness. Long-term thinkers do not seek motivation. They build discipline. Motivation fades. Discipline remains. Discipline is the engine of progress. Designing your future also requires vision. You must know what you are building. A vague future creates vague effort. A clear future creates focused action. Vision organizes your life. It aligns your choices. It directs your energy. When you know where you are going, you stop wasting time. You stop chasing distraction. And you stop following trends. You move with purpose. Long-term thinkers also understand trade-offs. Every yes is a no to something else. Time is limited. Energy is finite. You must choose wisely where to invest them. The future belongs to those who invest their present well. Designing your future also requires patience. Growth is slow. Mastery takes time. Success compounds quietly. Impatience destroys progress. People quit too early. They abandon their goals before results appear. But the seeds are always growing underground. The harvest comes later. Long-term thinkers trust the process. They stay consistent. They stay focused. They do not chase shortcuts. Shortcuts create weak foundations. Weak foundations collapse. Strong foundations create freedom. Designing your future is not about perfection. It is about direction. You will make mistakes. You will face setbacks. But when your direction is clear, you always return to the path. Long-term thinking also strengthens identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who reacts. You become someone who builds. You stop waiting for opportunity. You create it. You stop fearing the future. You prepare for it. This preparation builds confidence. Confidence built on competence. Competence built on discipline. Discipline built on vision. Vision built on clarity. Clarity built on thinking. This is the chain of mastery. Your future is not waiting for you. It is responding to you. Every choice you make moves it closer or pushes it further away. The future is listening. Design it wisely. Chapter 10. Becoming the architect of your life. Your life is not a random story. It is a structure. Every habit is a brick. Every decision is a beam. Every belief is a foundation. And whether you realize it or not, you are already building something. Most people live inside a life they never designed. They wake up inside routine they never chose. They follow paths they never questioned. They accept limits they never examined. They inherit a blueprint written by fear, pressure, expectation, and imitation. And then they wonder why their life feels small. A thinker does not live by accident. A thinker builds by intention. Becoming the architect of your life means stepping into authorship. It means accepting that no one else will design your future for you. It means realizing that responsibility is not a burden. It is power. Power to choose direction. Power to design structure. Power to decide pace. The architect does not wait for perfect conditions. They work with what they have. They adjust plans. They redesign when needed. They strengthen weak areas. They understand that life is not static. It is dynamic. A strong architect builds with flexibility. Your mind is the drafting table. Your habits are the tools. Your discipline is the engine. And your vision is the blueprint. Vision gives your life shape. Without it, effort is wasted. Energy scatters. Progress slows. A clear vision organizes your days. It turns random effort into strategy. It gives you direction when motivation fades. An architect thinks in systems. They understand how choices connect, how actions compound, how time multiplies results. They see life as a long project, not a series of reactions. They build foundations first: character, discipline, clarity. These are the pillars of a strong life. Without them, success collapses. Becoming the architect of your life also requires courage. Courage to choose your own path. Courage to reject limits. Courage to stand alone when needed. The world will always offer easy roads, but easy roads lead to crowded destinations. Great lives are built on difficult paths. The architect is not afraid of effort. They respect it. They understand that effort is the currency of growth. Every hour invested compounds. Every skill learned multiplies opportunity. They play the long game. A strong architect also understands self-mastery. They do not blame the world. They do not blame people. They do not blame circumstances. They take ownership. Ownership is the doorway to control. When you own your actions, you own your outcomes. When you own your thinking, you own your direction. When you own your discipline, you own your future. An architect does not build emotionally. They build strategically. They choose habits that support growth. They design routines that create momentum. They eliminate patterns that weaken progress. They build a life that works for them, not against them. A designed life feels different. It feels intentional. It feels grounded. It feels purposeful. You wake up knowing what matters. You move with clarity. You act with confidence. You stop drifting. You start building. An architect also respects reality. They do not ignore limitations. They work around them. They do not deny obstacles. They solve them. They do not complain about the terrain. They design stronger tools. This mindset transforms pressure into progress. Every problem becomes information. Every failure becomes feedback. Every setback becomes strategy. Life becomes a workshop, and you become the builder. Becoming the architect of your life means refusing to live passively. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer wait for approval. You no longer wait for opportunity. You create it. You design your environment. You shape your circle. You choose your influences. You become intentional about what enters your mind, what shapes your thinking, what directs your energy. You protect your focus. You invest in your growth. This is how ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Not through luck, through design, not through chance, through clarity, not through hope, through discipline. An architect also builds resilience. They understand that structures are tested by storms, by pressure, by time. A weak structure collapses, a strong one stands. Resilience is built through adversity, not comfort. Every challenge strengthens the frame. When you respond with intelligence, every struggle sharpens skill. This is how mastery is formed. You do not become strong by avoiding pressure. You become strong by building through it. Becoming the architect of your life also means becoming selective. Selective with time, selective with energy, selective with attention. You stop wasting resources on things that do not move you forward. You stop feeding distractions. You stop chasing noise. You focus on building. A focused architect creates results. Results create confidence. Confidence creates momentum. Momentum builds legacy. Legacy is not what people say about you. It is what remains because of you. The impact you create, the value you build, the lives you influence. A designed life leaves a mark, and now you are standing at the edge of a new identity. Not a follower, not a reactor, not a drifter, a thinker, a builder, an architect. You now understand how the mind works, how perception shapes reality, how discipline creates freedom, how clarity builds confidence. You have learned to question, to analyze, to design. Your thinking is sharper. Your vision is clearer. Your future is stronger. You are no longer waiting for life to happen. You are shaping it. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your mastery. From this moment forward, every decision becomes a brick. Every habit becomes a beam. Every belief becomes a foundation. Build wisely. Build intentionally. Build boldly. The world will respond to the structure you create, and when you look back years from now, you will not see a life that happened to you. You will see a life you designed, a life built with thought, a life built with discipline, a life built with purpose. This is your masterpiece. This is your architecture. This is your life.